your heart and stop following your mind. That's how we're controlled. That's how we're programmed.
And you saw that the other night with Kanye West. How good was Kanye West?
Now, before we get started, I'd like to encourage you to hit the notification bell for future videos. Also, like the video if you like. And if you dislike the video, then you're just a horrible person. We know what we have with Kanye West. We know that we're dealing with an individual that isn't big on facts. He's obviously an artist. An artist's goal is to express themselves. It's not to solve problems, which is what we should keep in mind when we hear him say anything that has any importance whatsoever. And the collective sort of reacts to it as if Kanye should step away and not speak at all. But we never really speak about Kanye's intent. We never really speak about what Kanye is trying to get through to us when he says the things that he says. I'm not going to specifically discuss the 13th Amendment statement, a comment that he later retracted on Twitter saying that he wants to amend the 13th Amendment and not abolish it. And of course, we can't forget the slavery comments. The issue of free thought is something that he's been throwing a lot out there. He did it on SNL. He's done it in the past. And I think it's one of the points where people are the most confused about. And for example, Charlemagne sat down with Van Lathan of TMZ. You'll remember Van Lathan being the guy that gave Kanye that preachy speech about whatever it is that he gave him the speech about. I mean, it's TMZ, so I pretty much just take it with a grain of salt. So he's on Van Lathan's podcast, and he's discussing the subject of free thought and Kanye West.
You know, it's this whole conversation about free thought, which I totally agree with. Free thought, freedom of expression, freedom of speech. But is it really free thought when you commit to another side? Like, that's why I don't believe in any one of the political parties, and I don't think you should commit to either political party, because when you commit to either political party, you don't have free thought. You know what I'm saying? You're
believing in a platform,
on the values and the ideologies of that party.
Right.
That's not free thinking.
I think it was very intellectually dishonest for Charlemagne to say Kanye's committing to either side and believing in an ideology. Now, we can say a lot of things about Kanye and his comments about politics, but what we will not say and what we shouldn't say is that he's committed to anything. He's not very informed. So to say that he's committed to an ideology is very dishonest on Charlemagne's part, because he acts as if there's no such thing as a single issue voter, as if that's not a thing. You know, maybe you have strong pro-life opinions, so you vote Republican. It doesn't mean that you subscribe to the notion that marriage is the union between a woman and a man. It doesn't mean that you hate immigrants. It doesn't mean that you're anti-Democrat. You're just anti-pro-choice. Especially somebody like Kanye, who I seriously doubt there's one policy of Trump's or one policy of the Republican side that he really believes strongly, you know. And even if he does, he's not able to articulate it well. So it's silly for us to assume that he's committed to anything. I think the world is essentially being his notepad right now, and being a creative person like he is, he's throwing out many ideas, and people who aren't big on divergent thinking are confused. People who are just concerned in what you think about and facts, and they're very solid, prickly people who are based on facts, and they believe that one should only say something if they are informed about it, are very confused when you see a person who constantly throws out ideas and thinking of all the possibilities, and that's pretty much what they do. But that's what the divergent thinking is all about. That's what free thought is all about. You're not concerned on what you think. You're more concerned on how you think. So the point that you arrive on isn't really important. It's how you get to that point. And the other thing is, you know, the comment about if he does side with the Republican Party, is it really free thought? Free thought also doesn't mean that your thoughts come straight out of the ether, as if they're independent of the universe, as if your thoughts have only been thought by you. That's what people think, or that's what Charlemagne thinks free thought is. And if he does think that's what it is, unless he's just being disingenuous, which I think this is part of it, I feel that part of it is, he's sticking to one extreme example, and that's going to make him sound as right as he possibly can. So I don't think he truly believes that. But, I heard comments like this on the on Hot 97 as well, talking about the fact that Kanye had something to say to Harvey of TMZ, and when he said it, he referenced something that his friend had sent him, and they said, well, that's not really free thought. But again, free thought is how you think, it's not what you think. I think people are confusing Kanye West, or want Kanye West to be Killer Mike, and there's a huge difference. Killer Mike showed his support for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, who of course champions himself as a democratic socialist. Now, at the time when he did this, this wasn't the status quo. The status quo within the rap collective around the time of the Democratic elections was to support Hillary Clinton. You'll remember that Hillary Clinton was being supported by Jay-Z, being supported by Beyonce, 50 Cent, T.I., Swiss Beats, Snoop Dogg. Everybody under the sun was supporting Hillary Clinton, and Killer Mike went the other way. Now, the big difference between these two is that Killer Mike has committed himself to that initiative. He's committed himself to it because if you ask him, why are you showing support? Then he says, well, prison reform. I'm very big on prison reform, and I feel like Bernie Sanders is the guy who's going to get us there. Redistribution of wealth. As I said, he's a democratic socialist, and he believes in the top 1% has to pay their fair share of taxes. It's the only fair way. These people didn't earn wealth themselves. There's infrastructure, there's things that people built around them that helps them get around to their business, and yada yada yada. Also racial equality. So there's reasons why Killer Mike can say that he supports Bernie Sanders, and that's more of an example of somebody who has stuck to a certain ideology. But even then, he doesn't believe every policy wholeheartedly because he is pro-gun, and Bernie Sanders is obviously not. We're dealing with the individual versus the collective. If you believe that anything that Kanye says from this point on that he said at the beginning of this year is harmful to the community, then I would argue that you don't have any faith in the community. There's this constant conversation of, are you done with Kanye? And I'd like to know how you guys feel about this. Are you done with Kanye? Is this it with Kanye? Is Kanye in the sunken place? Are we done with Kanye? And that's the constant conversation. And I think that if you constantly have to ask yourself this question, then what you should do on the opposite end of that question is really have more faith that the collective isn't made up of naive people. The collective isn't made up of malleable people who still sit around and believe everything that is said by a famous individual. This idea that just because somebody has a large platform and they have a huge influence, and that almost always will make their voice be, of course it'll be heard, but it will make their voice resonate and people will digest what they say, good or bad. And I don't believe that that's true. You can wear that welcome out. There are many people who have huge platforms. If Kendrick Lamar came out and started making ridiculous statements that have no fact based to them, then there's a period of time that will wear off, where it's dangerous. Kendrick, don't say that. Don't say things about the 13th Amendment. Don't say it. But there's a time where it's going to wear off and the public is going to see you for who you are. This is what intelligent societies do. Intelligent societies don't silence others because obviously they believe in your right to say what you have to say. But also, we believe in the free marketplace of ideas. And if I think that you are incorrect, if I think that you aren't fit to speak, the best thing that I could do to prove that is to let you speak. Let you hang your own rope, because if we are not made up of naive people, of stupid people, and I'm talking about the black and brown, the minority, the hip hop community that Kanye influences, the youth, if we are not made up of naive people, then he can say whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants because we are not going to take it in and take it as the gospel. So all these rappers that come out and say like Kanye West is a clown and you know he's a detriment to who I am, and you have people who are constantly asking T.I. to be the Kanye whisperer and to try to talk some sense into him. You have Swiss Beats who's making beats, fuck the MAGA hat. And what you're really doing is strengthening Kanye's argument. There's no argument, by the way. There's no argument. There's no basis to it. There's no ethos to it. But there is a basis and an ethos being developed because of your rejection. It's the same exact thing that happened at the time of the election with Donald Trump. On the way to in the whole campaign, whatever was being said was so intellectually inconsistent that the opposite side fought against it so much that it started to add some validity to the statements. They were so vehemently against it that it started to show Trump as somebody who had something valid to say for someone. We didn't know who it was, but it sort of molded itself. And you can see that it's a monster that his own opponents created. And if we continue to do that with Kanye, that's exactly what's going to happen. Are you guys done with Kanye West? Do you think that Kanye West isn't a danger anymore because we understand what he is? We understand what he's trying to say. Please let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time.